No one's coming to save you, and that's a good thing. No one can save you. In fact, you don't really need to be saved anyway. However, there is something more that's coming for you, and I think you know that. It's probably why you're watching this video. Out of all of the clients that I've worked with over the years, and it's been over 10,000 people over the last 20 years, they usually want two things. One is they want to be able to have continual, real, long-term growth, internally and externally. And two is they don't want to feel like they're wasting their time getting there. It's funny because it's like, is that too much to ask for? It's like, no, it's not too much to ask for. You can do that. It's just nuance. It's not simple. There's no fast tracking it. Usually when you try to fast track something, it's usually the fastest way to slow tracking it. So how do we go about doing that? Well, there's a term I use called own, don't loan. I'm going to go through and explain that a bit more today, and I'm going to explain some codependent relationships and how you need to be able to move through that. I'm going to draw it out for you. But really what that's speaking to more than anything is radical responsibility. When we look at the word responsibility, it's your ability to respond. When you place blame or place power over to something else, you now lose responsibility. Therefore, you're at effect to whatever decision that they're making. And it's the same sort of thing when we go, that person makes me feel this way. Well, that's probably triggering something within you, but they can't make you feel that way. In the same way, wherever my phone is, I've over the years had someone's name pop up and I'll be like, oh, what do they want? And I have this reaction. And so I could say that this is making me feel this way, when in reality, I'm feeling that way because of the meanings I have about this scenario. And then a year later, that same person calls and I'm like, what do they want? Did they just turn it off? What happened? Something changed within me. Meaning, structures, and values changed within me. And so it's a trigger and I feel a particular way, but it's actually me doing it. And the more that I can take radical responsibility for how I'm feeling, the more that I'm in control of all that. And it's the same with relationships. And I'm going to break that down for you today. And I'm going to let you know the 4 beliefs and the 3 actions that you need to take on board, both in mind and then for external actions, so that you can have an own, don't loan relationship when it comes to your health and your performance. So, if you've come this far, then my guess is there's probably something burning in the back of your mind. Something that you get upset, like when you catch yourself procrastinating and scrolling, you kind of get a bit frustrated with yourself because you know you could be doing something edging you closer to your potential, to what you're capable of, to something that you actually really desire, but you're not, and you're not sure why. You might call it self-sabotage. It's not. We never self-sabotage, right? If we have a conscious goal and our unconscious is stopping us from achieving the conscious goal, it's because the conscious goal would sabotage our unconscious beliefs. So we actually have to bring them to awareness, right? So if anything, achieving your conscious goal would sabotage your unconscious beliefs. So it's trying to keep you safe. So it's not that. But if you have this thing burning the back of your mind, then in order to be able to shift and make some changes, we need 2 core things. Think of this, 2, 4, 3 is what I'm going to teach you today. The 2 things, and I spoke about this in my last video, is love and education. Now love, when I talk about love, I'm talking about holding space and I'm talking about compassion and patience, both for self and for other. Because if your compassion, and somebody else said this, I can't recall his name, if your compassion doesn't include you, then it's incomplete. I think it was Jack Cornfield actually. So if your compassion doesn't include you, then it's incomplete. Self-love is actually fundamentally rooted in self-acceptance. When I talk about education, what I'm really referring to is the ability to be the student and the teacher, to be able to be open for learning. Now, if you're in that space, continue, because black belts don't stop being students. In fact, they're usually the best students, right? It's this idea that love and education is how we move through and have radical responsibility. If we're able to show up like that for ourselves and our relationships around us, our whole world fundamentally transformed. So love and education is crucial. But let's have a look at this. Let's look at some codependent patterns. I'm going to draw them out for you. This was one of the first models I was taught. I was taught it through a female mentor. How old was I? Probably around 2016, I think this was. Around then, 2016, 2017. And it was profound when I first saw it. I remember teaching it to somebody once. They're like, oh, human interaction model. And I'm like, sort of, not quite. But we have codependent, dependent, independent, and then interdependent. And I'll talk through these in a sec, right? Codependent, independent, interdependent, and so forth. Now, in this codependent space, we have what's called the drama cycle. And in our drama cycle, we have, it's a terrible triangle. It's a triangle, I promise. We have the rescuer, we've got the victim, and we've got the aggressor. Now, what happens is that these individuals, to uphold this identity, they actually need each other. So the victim needs an aggressor. The aggressor needs a victim. The victim needs a rescuer. Aggressor needs a rescuer, and so on and so forth. And so they will look to maintain this relationship wherever they can. And I've even seen victims will actually shift to become the aggressor, to push the person to become back the victim again. Now, I say that just to clarify, I grew up in a pub in a small country town with my mother and her choice in partners at the time, and it was an alcoholic, abusive environment that I grew up in. I have absolutely fundamentally grown up with these types of relationships. The thing about it is that this happens in all sorts of relationships. My question isn't, is it good or bad? I'm saying, are you aware of it? Because here's another example. I am the victim. I can't start my day, the aggressor, without a coffee, the rescuer. I can't squat without knee sleeves. Like, you can be codependent on things. My question is, are you aware of it? Right? For me, I can't do my tax without my accountant. I'm fully aware of that relationship, and he's a great bloke and I'm happy to pay him, so that's fine from my end. But this is a codependent relationship, and a lot of trainers keep people here because this person goes, I need to lose weight. Weight's the aggressor. This person's like, I'll teach you how, and they keep them codependent. And when you remove the rescuer, this person always reverts to their default. I showed you that in the BossFit Matrix yesterday. So the way that we move to be able to build dependence, independence, and then interdependence, and think about this as completely adaptive. Adapt. This is creative. And this here would be, how would I best explain dependent? Self-reliant. Now, that means that they're still able to do things, but they still are kind of relying on a particular structure. So they don't have too much creativity, but this person here, as we move through these stages, and you could look at this in any area of your life, could literally pick them up and put them anywhere, and they would do exceptionally well in that category, in that area. So victim, aggressor, rescuer, the way that we move from here, which this is like prisoner, energy, this is blame. Remember, whenever you blame, you be lame. I'm so sorry. But the way we move through here is through love and education. And I mentioned yesterday in the other podcasts around what love and education is in a bit more detail, and mentioned it here as well. But that's how we actually move through these stages. So how we move to interdependence and dependence and so forth. But we actually have to, everyone has to start here. There's nothing wrong with this. It's more about, are you aware of it? So that's the codependent patterns. The 4 beliefs that are going to help you shift to be able to move into this other stage of you, this next stage of you, are really important. There's a number of principles that we can use, but the first one we're going to work through is that you deserve your goals. Let's actually write this down. So the core beliefs, this is just a few, there's many different principles. I call these principles, but beliefs are another way to think about it, that we need to take on in order to be able to make these shifts. The first one that I think is the fundamentally most important is that you have to actually think and believe that you deserve your goals. We don't get what we want, we get what we think we deserve. And if you don't feel like you deserve your goals, then you just will not ever achieve them. That's number 1. Number 2 is that the universe is a mirror. What that means is that whatever you are, you get back. There's this idea of, once again, law of attraction, or in Daniel Priest's words, you get what you pitch for and you're always pitching, all of these terms. But an easy way to think about this is that if you were looking in the mirror and you're like, I need more money, what you're saying to that mirror is, I don't have much money, so it gives you that. Right? The universe is a mirror. If you take this principle on in mind, it's not about going, okay, I'm going to be abundant. Yes, all the nice vibes coming my way. I don't know why. That sounds loud in my head, but they do. It's not that, because it has to be actually true. You get back what you put out, and you put out your energetic signature. And I spoke about it in an earlier podcast. You'll be able to find it. If not, comment below and I'll send it to you. But either way, the universe is a mirror. Number 3, the gap between where you are, that's a K, where you are and where you want to be is a skill gap. Now, if you think about this in mind, you understand that the gap between where I am and where I want to be is not, it's not like inherent talent. It's not, naturally born genetic. It is a skill gap. Now, there might be some parameters to this. For example, I don't actually have a goal to play in the NBA, but I'm about 5'8" on a good day, and maybe in my lifting shoes. And I do not have the skill sets to be able to get to the NBA. Now, there are people that are 5'8" that have played in the NBA. But what I'm getting at here is that with your specific goals, and if your goal is to play in the NBA, fuck it. It's just a skill gap if that's what you really want. But if you understand it's a skill gap, you change it from like it's this weird BHAG type, big hot area AJ, sorry AJ, whoever that is. I got a friend called AJ who was actually my bridesmaid, my groomsman. Big, hairy, audacious goal, what BHAG stands for. I'm going to tell AJ I said that. Is just a skill gap. Like it actually gives you a pathway to be able to achieve it. So that's really crucial. Number 4 is that you are not an anxious person. You're just underprepared. If you understand this, and I fundamentally remember driving back. I was driving into work one day. It was just after I realized I was going to do a TED talk. It was like 2 days and I had a month. I had actually just under a month to be able to put together a TED talk and deliver it. And I remember driving in, I had this overwhelming sense of anxiety. And I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? I could feel it in my like loins. And then it just occurred to me, it was like, I'm just underprepared at the moment. I'm underpracticed. I put about 80 to 100 hours in over the next month to delivering that TED talk. And by the time I got to stage, I had nerves, but I wasn't nervous. And so you're not anxious, you're just underprepared. So it's time to practice. They're your 4 beliefs. So these beliefs are great. The principles, they're fantastic. I know they are. But how do you actually apply this to the real world and to your life? Let's talk through 3 actions that I know can be beneficial and that you can do literally today. Let's get into it. Number 1. Brain drain. I don't know what's going on with me. The brain drain. Maybe my brain was drained. The brain drain. Now, this is from Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way. She talks about this exercise called morning pages, and it's been crucial for my development this year, massively. I actually got in touch with an old teacher who wrote a book, and she's like, oh, this would be great for you. And it's the best way I've seen anyone journal, as in like I've given it to heaps of people, and they've found it exceptionally beneficial. But it's called a brain drain. You can imagine it like, in the morning, you literally 1 to 3 pages. I use just like those books from Kmart or I don't know where you're watching this from, Walmart, just like books that you would take to school and put in binders. And 1 to 3 pages, just writing whatever's coming out. And the powerful thing with this, it's a form of journaling, but you start to get really intimate with your thoughts and you start to be able to, and I spoke about this in my TED talk, you start to become objective to your thoughts rather than being subject to them, rather than see, because we don't see reality as it is. We don't see reality as it is. We see reality as we are. But if we can't get our subjective filters in front of us, then we're always subject to them. So you become objective to it. So your brain drain is crucial for that. It's a really powerful thing. She calls it morning pages. But imagine you've got dirty sink from the night before. You've got to drain that and get everything out of there and give it a clean, and then you're good to go for the day. Number 2 is you've got to identify your skill gap. So where's your deficiency, right? Identify it. And there's many different ways you can do this. You can use the Boss Fit Matrix to do this, but really the key thing here is going, where am I, where do I want to go, and what are the skills necessary for me to be able to get there? You can brainstorm this, you can ask for feedback on this, but it kind of leads to the 3rd point, which you can do, and that is to get a guide. Now, a guide could be an actual one-on-one coach. It could be joining a community. It could be grabbing a book that you think is going to be beneficial. It could be a YouTube channel, but having a guide that you go, who has what I want? And how can I learn how to get that from them? That is literally it. There's nothing wrong in that. Sometimes you have to pay. I have paid easily $100,000 in my life with people going, they have what I want, I need to learn from them. And I'm the kind of person that would go to the source. I literally, at the age of 26 to 28, went and trained with over 40 different people in the States that I found like exceptionally inspiring, that I learned from, all online. Some of them were free. Some of them I paid. CT Fletcher, if you want to Google who that is or YouTube that is, I paid him $1,000 for an hour in an interview. So there's different ways that you can do that sort of stuff. But either way, get a guide, whether it's a YouTube channel, whether you find someone to pay. If you look at this as well, you've got a guide, you've got a skill gap and a brain drain. There are 3 actions that you can take today. You include that with your 4 beliefs, and now you're starting to move to radical responsibility, and you've got a pathway from moving from loaning to owning. And team, that's me done. Any questions, chuck them in the comments. Otherwise, I'm out. Until next time, big love, peace and pizza. I'll see you soon.